Hey everyone, Jay here, and welcome to our Python Lab number 6. This time we're going to talk about string formatting when we're outputting variables. How do we make that output look nice and human readable? Because the output is for a human, and hopefully it's something that makes sense when a human is trying to read it. All right, that's super important. It's super important to some future assignments. You're going to be highly graded on whether it looks human readable later on. So pay close attention and learn this part very well. Okay. Beginning of our lab here, don't forget your shebang. Don't forget your descriptive comment at the top. All right, and I have an extra little comment here because this is my example part that I'm giving to you, and then the real part down below, which I'm not going to show you, is my solution at the end. Okay, so what are we doing here? I have two variables, one that's a string and one that's a float. Okay, my string is just the words hello world, and my float I'm calling var countdown is a number 0.12345. Now, we're not going to do like a real 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 countdown. We're going to do something a little bit different, and we're going to play with formatting numbers. Okay, so what we're going to do is output this number and take off one digit on the end every time. So it says 0.1235, 0.1234, 0.123, 0.12, and so on. So first line, I'm going to also give you many different ways to format this text. Kind of just one way to format the numbers and 4 or 5 different ways to format the text part. Okay, so many different ways. You're only going to have to do one of these, and it's the one that you get to pick. So that's good news. First one, easiest way to do it, we have kind of like we had in the past where I just comma separated two arguments and put them in our print statement. So I have print var hello world, comma, and the next one is a little more complicated because we're taking a string and we're inputting the number and formatting the number at the same time. Okay, so here is our string right there, start quote, end quote. Okay, the comma is inside the string here because we want our output to say hello world, comma, the countdown is number. Okay, and so I've created a place to insert the number right here. I've got my curly braces. I got some formatting information right here. There are a lot of formatting options. I put the right one in here for you, and you'll find a link in your resources area to some more information if you want to read about that farther. Okay, so I've got a place for the number within the curly braces, and then a dot format command or function immediately after the string. So string dot operator, which means this function is going to be applied directly to that string. Okay, dot format, and I'm formatting the variable count of our countdown, our number, into that place that we've made it. So that place that we've made it, I've said, hey, we're going to make this a floating point number with 5 numbers after the decimal place. All right, beautiful. 5 numbers after the decimal place. It's going to put that in there. It knows how to do it. That's its job. Okay. So this one was the easier of the two because we have already seen some of this before. Okay, we have our print command, first variable, comma. The second variable is more complex, but we've done the 2 variables in the print statement. Okay. Next one is a little bit better because you may or may not have looked down at the output yet, but this first line is wrong because it says hello world space comma space, the countdown is number. Okay, that's wrong, and that's because when we do those 2 variables, I think I mentioned in the previous lab, when we comma separate those variables, Python is going to force a comma in between each one. Okay, so in front of this comma that's within our quotation marks, before they even get to these quoted areas here, Python has inserted a comma automatically. We don't want that this time. It's okay that we've had it before. Maybe in the future we'll want that extra space there again, but today we don't. So to fix that, that's this next line where we're doing a print command and we're going to concatenate this string variable with this string literal. String literal, which we've been using already, is where we literally wrote a string. Okay, couldn't get any simpler than that. That's what it's called. We're concatenating the variable string with the literal string, and then we're formatting a number into the literal string. And we're formatting exactly the same way we did in the first line. Only difference is 4 decimal places instead of 5 decimal places. And we just give it the number 4 instead of the number 5. Computer does all the work for us, and we're good to go. And that one comes out again with a problem, with a different problem this time. Is when we told it to format down to 4 digits, it rounded and it turned our 4 into a 5. I have a solution for that. There's more than one solution, but the one that I'm going to give you doesn't require us to import any extra code. We can do it with vanilla Python. Okay, we don't have to import math in order to do it. We don't want to do that yet. We'll do plenty of that later. Okay, next line, we are going to use the %s inside of our literal string here. I'm going to include that variable string in later. Okay, so %s is a placeholder. S means it's a string. % begins our placeholder. We could have a D for decimal or some other options that we have there for our placeholder. We're using a string, so we're going to use S for string. That's our placeholder. Notice it's inside the quotation marks, a single quote. Okay, it's before the comma. It's right in the exact right spot that we want it. And then we have the rest of our string literal. We have a placeholder for our number, and we've told it to format to 3 decimal places this time. And then we're ending our string literal, and then we're beginning to format the string literal just like before. No changes there whatsoever. And then after that, then we're saying, oh yeah, remember we said that placeholder, this is what that's for over here. Okay, this one's not my favorite method, but you might like it and you could use it if you want. Okay, yeah, it's only not my favorite because this comes kind of totally separate. That's all. That's the only reason. It's kind of a silly reason, actually. Yeah, let's go to the next one. The next one, we're going to use this format function for both variables this time. Okay, we're going to put the hello world. Every time I see HW, it's homework. We're going to put the hello world, the variable string placeholder here, the floating point placeholder here. The string variable doesn't need any formatting options. We're not modifying it in any way. We're just sticking it in right in there. So we just put the curly braces with nothing in it. That's it. And then over here we got our curly braces with the information on how we want our number formatted. Right? And then you do have to be careful this time though. We have to put our variables in the order in which they appear in the string. Okay, that's important. So we'll put our variable here for the string, our variable string, and we put our variable here for the number because the string happens before the number. Pretty easy. I like this one kind of the best, except the next one's even better. The next one, in the placeholders for each one, we're going to number the placeholders, and that means that the order of the placeholders and the order of the variables don't need to match because we've numbered the placeholders. This allows us to modify the string literal however we want, as long as the variables stay in the same order. Okay, so in this case, I've said the variable string is going to be number 1, and the number variable is going to be number 0. Okay, so 0 comes before 1, and then our format options, the number came before the string. So this one's a little bit more flexible because as long as this order doesn't change, you can come back later and modify this order. Okay, so a little bit of flexibility. Otherwise, it's exactly the same as the line before it. Okay, and then for the last one, we're doing exactly the same thing again, except the placeholder for the number doesn't have any formatting anymore, because now we're just going to output the 0 by itself, no decimal point, or I guess we are going to have a decimal point this time, right? But 0 by itself, it's still a floating point digit, so it's going to say 0.0 in our output here. And you're going to have to figure that one out, I guess. Shouldn't be too hard, right? And then we're going to output, we're actually going to use the round function, round this down to 0 decimal places. It'll round down to 0 decimal places, but it's not going to turn it into an integer. You could turn it into an integer. That might be a thing. That's an option. And then we're going to have our string variable at the end right here. And if you're still thinking about how do we fix that number 4, the kind of simplest solution that I have for you, it doesn't require us adding anything extra into our program, is we're going to take our countdown variable, multiply it by 10,000, so that moves the decimal place over 4 spaces, typecast it, force it to be an integer, and now that it is an integer, we've moved the decimal place over 4 spaces, said you're an integer now, forget all those decimals that you have after you, any number could be, we just have the one number, the number 5, right? Forget all that stuff. You're just 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to divide by 10,000 again, move the decimal place back to its original spot. Now it's 0.1234. And there you go. And you can see it's right here. It's 0.1234. And what you're going to want to do is on the line that you need it, you can put this on every line if you really wanted to, but on the line that you need it, on the line that's 4 decimal points long, if you put it on a different line, you have to figure out what number to multiply and divide by. Instead of 10,000, it's going to be something else. Hopefully you can figure that one out, right? So you're going to take this, stick it in that place, and then it will, we're going to do the rounding ourselves kind of the hard way, right? We're going to kind of back into it. Okay. And that's it. So what you have to fix in here is, for all the formatting of all these lines, just pick the one that's your favorite, the one that you think you're the most comfortable with. Do that version every single time. Fix the spot with the number 4, fix the spot with the 0, and turn it in. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.